Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are running the part 6 for the video series. Today we'll be doing a Windows Server 2019 parent virtual hard disk machine. And this is part of a video series we are doing, which is we are creating a single laptop to test 3-node multi-subnet always on cluster. The whole idea is that we want to create a virtual machine. What that virtual machine will do is that it will have a Windows 2019 and all the pre-configured settings which we want. Think about it like creating a template in world of Hyper-V or VMware. You create a Windows, say, 2016 template, and then you can make copies of it, make all your changes into the template, and that way when you create a copy of it, all those settings are replicated in it. Here our goal is that we'll be using that template. We'll be using that template and we'll be naming it as parent virtual hard disk, right? And the concept is it works like a template, but you attach a differential disk to it, and we'll be creating one differential disk for each of these machines. We'll be creating a virtual router, then we'll be creating a domain controller, DB node 1, 2, 3, as well as one more app node to test the whole cluster configuration. Right, so all 6 will be creating on it. So let's continue. So far in the last 5 video tutorials, you have covered how the overall architecture should look like for this setup. You have covered how to configure your laptop so that without making any major changes to your existing laptop, you can still create a virtual hard disk and boot from it, and that way you'll have your own machine to do all this testing. In the last video, we used that Windows 10 demo laptop which we set it up, and then we configured Hyper-V on it. After Hyper-V configuration, we created 3 different networks. One is the 10.10, second is 20, and third is the one connects to internet. Now, in this session, we'll be creating parent virtual hard disk. This will be the base of our session. The whole idea is that we install Windows 2019 on a VM. We configure all the settings we need, like we'll need Telnet to do all the testing going forward and all these VMs which we'll create. We will also configure, say, update all the patches to it, enable remote, as well as configure, delegate the access so that other machines can connect to this. Having said that, my name is Prakash Heda. I'm an MCDBA, MCITP, being into SQL Server field for a long time. I'm working as SSNC Advent in San Francisco, California. And I'm also running a blog and consultancy called SQLfeatures.com. You can get onto SQLfeatures.com to see all the videos and all the tutorials we have published so far. You can also see the previous tutorials of this and you'll be able to use it. Plus, feel free to connect me on LinkedIn. I would love to share and get your feedback there. Alright, let's get going. So let's open PowerShell. Always start as administrator. So you can see we are in a script folder, part 6, open parent VM. This is the script we'll be using. As you can see, there is an unattended base file we are creating. So we want to answer a couple of basic questions like what should be the computer name, what should be the password, like that, so that we don't have to enter it when we are creating the VM. So we'll use it. So I'm gonna run it F8. And at the same time, let's see. So first VM, we are creating the Windows 19 parent VM. This is our password. And this should be the VM name. Whatever the VM name, we want VHDX to be created with that. See, VHD is the folder we created before as a standard. So I ran the selection. It's populated the variable. First thing we do is the mount VHD. This is the command which creates a new VHD with the file name which we just created. Give it a dynamic size to 50 GB. It doesn't mean it's going to use 250 GB, but it's possible. And it starts with like 4 MB as the size, and then later on it will keep increasing as you add the data to it. Then mount VHD. We mount that VHD. We initialize the disk, do the new partition, and then format the volume, and then finally force it to come out, and then we want the result to be saved so that we can get the drive letter, and I'll tell you next what to do that. So let's run this. You can see there is a pop-up might show up here at this point when it's creating it. See this pop-up, so it's asking you to do you want to format it. No, our command is gonna take care of this anyway. Right, and now let's run the command, see what's the F drive. So we can see F drive is created. Let's go check. There you go, F drive completely empty. Now we want to mount the operating system on this particular drive. Now, so this is the unattended variable we created. We are replacing VM name as well as password in that. Let's run it. And now we are saving it to the drive we just created. So it should go into the root folder for it to work. So if you go there, our file is there. So this VHD, the basics are ready. Now we're gonna dismount it. Now we run a new command, new VM command. This will create the VM for us. Then we set a processor, core processor in this case, because it's gonna be a test VM, so we're gonna make it quick. Then memory, we are setting it to up to 8 gig to it. And let's run this, 3 commands. So this just created VM, set it up off, status. Now we are enabling VM integration. Couple of things I do by default. It's a test environment, so we don't want to worry about checkpoints. Let's disable the checkpoint. Set VM name and turn off. So do these basic things so that way automatic start and stop action you're controlling. Then VMD drive, we want to set, the drive what we created. You should be using the location which you just created. In my case, SQL setup all, SQL binary. So you want to go to the binary folder. We created all the folders in the last run. So you want to use this path and make sure this path is correct. Set the drive, we're all set. Now next command will start the VM. So let's start the VM. And this command will open and connect it so we can see what's going on. So at this point we should be seeing Windows getting installed. It will pop up some questions for us, but not the machine name and the password. So installation is started. Next, click install now. So at this point we are creating the template where we'll be configuring all the settings for a default Windows 2019 server, which we'll be using to create then 6 different VMs to do multiple things. So I don't have a product key, just use that and pick the standard desktop experience. Click next, accept the terms. Custom Windows, I usually pick default. Click next. So it thinks it has 250 GB of space, but technically if you go and check your VHD folder, you can see right now the size is 462 and the size is increasing. As the data is being inserted into the file, you can see the size inserted. At this point, the Windows is getting installed, and I'll be back once it's done. And there will be some pop-ups now coming on this VM, so make sure to take a look. Meanwhile, let's start our virtual Hyper-V machine. So type HY, bring us. So Hyper-V Manager, you can see we created the VM, it's running. This is what we connected. Right click and say pin to taskbar so you can access it quickly again. And we can see this is our Windows 9 parent is connecting. Another way to start this window, we can close this, right click and say connect. This is the same window. So alright, so I'm back. Seems our computer is rebooting. So let's make it full screen. Show options. See, this is something you need to do one time for every time you create a new VM. So let's connect. So now it will become a full screen. We have good space to work with. Password we know. Enter it. 6 times T1 exclamation. That would be a standard password for this whole video tutorial. As you can see, it's 9 Windows 19 parent VHD we have created. This is that brand new this machine. First thing we'll do is check for updates. Just disable this option first time. Let's go to local server. Let's make sure we can see everything. So it's Windows, the computer name is done as we specified into our unattended XML file. Then Defender firewall is on. For this particular purpose, we don't need it, but I'm not gonna disable it now. We'll run a command to do it. Remote management is enabled, desktop is disabled. We want to have it enabled. IP4 is assigned, internet is already available on this computer. As you can see, internet is connected. Install update automatic. So we want to update and then disable the updates, because in this testing exercise, there is we don't care. Once we have a template ready, we don't want it to update. So when we create new VMs from this particular parent disk, then basically all the Windows updates are already done and we don't have to do it every time. The idea is it takes 5 minutes like to create a new VM and then set it up. Alright, so meanwhile it's happening, let's open our scripts and let's make sure. So I'm gonna get out of the Windows 9 parent VM. We'll come back to our script. So now since it's connected, we are trying to connect using command line PowerShell. So get VM name, we are login, password, secret password, credentials, PS sessions, remove. So this line is basically removing any sessions. As you know, the admin password, we are creating a secret password, we're converting as plain text secure string. Now we are creating a credential, and that's the credential we'll be using to connect. Now enter PS session is the command to basically connect to the VM with the credential. When I do F8, see what changed here. We are now connected to Windows 19 parent. We are on this folder, so we are connected to the machine directly. The first thing we want to do is disable the firewall, right? So I'm going to select it, let's run it. So right now firewall is disabled. We want to enable RDP. So these are the 3 lines to run for that. That means this VM can be connected from anywhere basically. So test VMs is sure, production, always different settings. Telnet, we want to install Telnet so we can test connections easily. We're gonna see if WinRM is running properly or not after that. Alright, get service. You can see WinRM is running. So as you saw, when we created the Windows 10 VM, VHD, 8 WinRM was in a stopped state and we had to enable it. But in Windows 2019 Standard Edition, it's by default, it's running, so good. Now let's disable UAC. We don't want UAC to be enabled here. So that's done. Let's check the network adapter. Let's validate. It is what we were expecting, so we can see Ethernet. So we got the network interface and on the command get adapter, LAN, the one we created, not matching, and we want to change the name. As you can see, adapter interface is 5. Now I say get net IP address for that adapter, and we can see it's IPv6 and IPv4, and we should be disabling IPv6. Not doing on the parent VM, because when we create a new VM out of it, that's when we'll be disabling it. It doesn't work, and even if you disable in parent VM, apparently it get enabled every time we add a new network. So we are updating all patches, and after that we want to reboot, right? So let's go back and check our VM if the patching is done, and if as you can see, our commands public is now off. Remote desktop enabled, so everything looks as expected. Let's close this. Go back to our, so it's still doing installation, so we'll give it some time. We'll be back once updates are installed, and then we'll reboot the VM. Just did a restart in between the updates because apparently the image is a little bit old, so there are 3 months of patches available. So it's just doing it right now. After the reboot, we will again start the patching. It's totally an optional step, but I prefer to do the one-time patching so that all the next future configuration is like running on the latest updates. Let's continue with updates. So it seems like in the second run we have only one big update other than our antivirus defender, so that should be pretty quick. Back, second round of update is done. I'm just gonna reboot the computer. I think it took us quite a while to do all the updates and patching, so stay ready for that. This is the reason we are creating the template, so we can do all those things, seal this VM as a template, so that next VMs we create, we don't have to do enable telnet, disable UAC, and all the other settings. So that's for it to come back, and we'll continue with next step. All right, we're done with reboot. Now let's run the next step. After update's done, so we again made the connection, enter the session, should create a session for them. Now we want to disable the updates. Save. Now let's run this command. So at this point all updates are disabled. Let's check if WS WinRM is enabled or not. So it says machine is not configured to allow delegation from fresh computer, then computer is not configured to receive. So we want to set that up. First we run the command enable WSMan CRED SSP. So you can do a double hop authentication as we call it. So let's check the status now. So compared to first time where it says computer is not configured to receive credential, now it's a computer is configured to receive credential. So one part is done. Let's work on the second part where we can say machine is configured to allow delegation from fresh computer. And if I run the first command, you can see right now the values are 0, trusted host, and nothing. So we want to add some computer to the trusted host so that other computer can connect, and I'm making it a star so that this VM can connect to any of the other computers, right? So now when this machine do a connection to another computer, it's basically using the credential with double hops. What I mean to say that if it's running with the domain authentication, that when it connects to another computer, in that computer connection also that authentication will work. Let's check it out. We can see the values are looking good. Now first thing we want to remove this file, right? Unattended files, we are good. At this point let's check. Ping is working as expected, we're all set, and at this point we'll do the restart computer. So once the restart is done, we're gonna remove this computer, okay, from the virtual machine, because this is the template. We are ready with this template. But before we do that, we want to run this command to create something called Sysprep. That makes this template as an image with every time we create a copy of it or attach a differential disk to it, it's going to create it's a new GUID, and that will be a unique VM. So let's connect to the VM. I can run this command from PowerShell, but I just want to show you how it looks like when we run it. So we go to wait for the PowerShell to show up here. We never save PowerShell here, so let's go to start, go to PowerShell, right click, run as administrator. You go, no pop-up came, which means UAC is disabled properly. Let's run the command. As you can see, Sysprep generalized system OAB. And what this will do, now Sysprep is working and it's basically cleaning up the whole system. So at this point it's removing like the machine name and other things from it which uniquely identify our VM. So once it's done, the machine will shut down, and at this point our template is ready. What we'll do is, meanwhile it's going on, so we're gonna remove this VM from here, but we want to see the location. As you're already aware, it's in CVHD folder, so that's validated. It's under CVHD. So this is our virtual machine. Let's go to this location. Okay, here we are. Let's first validate that it is shut down. It's still doing it. So give it few minutes, typically 2 to 3 minutes it may take. Okay, so the machine is now powered off. Okay, and we'll run the last command we have here. We say remove with force fed, and go to Hyper-V. You can see VM is gone. So this is our template. What you want to do is right click, go to properties, mark it as read only. Template creation for a parent virtual machine. In the next session, I will teach you how to use differential disks, how you can use like another 4 or 5 gig of space for each and every VM, which is just connected to disk, and there you can install SQL servers, always on, and the rest of the exercise. All right. If you like this series and you're liking what I'm teaching you, please like it and subscribe it if you want to know more, and share it with your friends so that they can also learn it. Look forward to see you next video. Thank you.